At just 13 years old, she stood beside Laurence Olivier, the greatest actor of the 20th century, and left him speechless. By 18, she was on the cover of Time magazine, hailed as Hollywood's Whiz Kid. Yet, within a few short years, she vanished so completely that critics assumed she had burned out for good. She would return, not with a blockbuster, but with a single, silent scene, less than a minute long, that forced the world to reconsider everything they thought they knew about her. But behind that quiet gaze lay heartbreaks the public never saw. A fractured childhood, broken marriages, betrayal, a devastating arrest, and a lifelong struggle to be taken seriously in an industry that wanted to box her in. This is the heartbreaking story of Diane Lane. Diane Colleen Lane was born on January 22, 1965, in New York City. Her mother, Colleen Farrington, was a nightclub singer and a Playboy centerfold. Her father, Burton Eugene Lane, was a drama coach who often struggled to find steady work. From the very beginning, Diane's life was unsettled. Her parents divorced when she was just 13 days old. Custody battles followed, and by the age of 6 her mother had walked away completely, leaving her with her father. Burton tried his best, but stability was never part of the equation. He drove a cab to make ends meet, and Diane spent much of her childhood riding through the city's streets, her home a series of transient hotel rooms. She had no bedroom of her own, no consistent school, no steady routine. But while her surroundings were unstable, her father filled her days with theater, poetry, and philosophy. At night, as the taxi rattled through Manhattan, he spoke about Shakespeare and Chekhov as though they were family friends. Diane soaked it all in, a quiet child observing more than she spoke, yet the chaos came at a cost. At 15, restless and searching for independence, Diane ran away with a co-star for a week, a reckless decision that would haunt her. And when her estranged mother briefly kidnapped her, forcing her to live in rural Georgia, Diane learned an even harsher truth. In her world, adults were unreliable, and survival meant learning to rely on herself. By 13, Diane's talent was undeniable. Director George Roy Hill cast her in A Little Romance, 1979, opposite Laurence Olivier. Olivier, a man not known for giving praise easily, called her the new Grace Kelly. Crew members were stunned. Diane wasn't a child actor mimicking emotions. She felt them. She lived them. Hollywood took notice. By 14, she was on the cover of Time magazine, hailed as part of a new generation of stars who would redefine cinema. But fame that comes too early rarely comes. Rumors of affairs swirled, fueled not by fact but by glances shared in films. By 19, Diane realized the public wasn't separating her from the roles she played. To them, she was either a dream girl or a scandal. Exhausted, she quietly stepped back. Hollywood thought she had burned out, but in reality, Diane Lane was just beginning. Fame in Hollywood never comes without a price, and for Diane Lane, it was her personal life that became fodder for headlines. In the early 1980s, she was linked to some of the most desirable men in the industry. Her chemistry with co-stars like Matt Dillon and Timothy Hutton fueled endless rumors of off-screen romance. Photographers caught her leaving dinners in Beverly Hills, arm in arm with rising stars, and the tabloids painted her as Hollywood's new heartbreaker. But the most persistent whispers came from her time working with Richard Gere on the Cotton Club. Though both denied anything more than friendship, the press was relentless. By 1989, Diane was being mentioned in the same breath as Hollywood's most eligible bachelors, her love life overshadowing her craft. What the public never saw was the toll this took on her. Diane was just 20, navigating an industry that judged her more for who she was seen with than for the depth she brought to the screen. And while the rumors made her a fixture of glossy magazines, they also began to trap her in an image she never asked for. In the late 1980s, Diane's career nearly collapsed. Roles dried up, scripts were uninspired, and the same industry that once hailed her as the next Grace Kelly now ignored her. It was a brutal lesson. Hollywood loves prodigies until they grow up. For several years, she was absent from the screen. Critics assumed she had quit or burned out. Few knew she was simply protecting herself, refusing roles that recycled the same shallow image. But in silence, Diane was learning something. She didn't want to be a starlet. She wanted to be an actress. And when she returned, she would remind everyone why she had once left Olivier speechless. The year was 2002. Diane Lane was cast in Unfaithful, directed by Adrienne Line. Her role, Connie Sumner, a wife who strays from her marriage not out of lust but loneliness. The character was neither saint nor sinner. She was human. And then came the scene that changed her career forever. A nearly wordless train ride home after Connie's first act of betrayal. No dialogue, no dramatic outburst, just trembling hands, shallow breaths, and eyes that told the entire story of guilt and desire. The scene wasn't scripted. Line had told her simply, "Do whatever you feel." What followed was raw, unfiltered emotion, captured in a single take. Audiences couldn't look away. Critics hailed it as a masterpiece. But while her career soared, Diane's personal life was marked by heartbreak. In 1988, she married French actor Christopher Lambert. Their daughter, Eleanor, was born in 1993. But the pressures of distance and work proved too much. They divorced in 1994, though they remained on good terms. Nearly a decade later, she married actor Josh Brolin. The marriage was turbulent from the start. In 2004, just months after their wedding, police were called to their home. Brolin was arrested for domestic battery after an altercation. Diane did not press charges, and the couple stayed together. But the shadow of that night lingered. By 2013, the marriage was over. For the woman once hailed as Hollywood's Grace Kelly, love had brought more wounds than joy. And yet, through it all, Diane Lane never lost her essence. She rebuilt herself again in Under the Tuscan Sun, 2003, inspiring women worldwide with a story of healing and rebirth. She played mothers, widows, forgotten wives, and ordinary women with extraordinary depth. In Secretariat, she became a leader in a man's world. In Trumbo, she was the silent strength behind a blacklisted writer. And in Man of Steel, she was Martha Kent, the quiet mother grounding Superman himself. For more than 4 decades, Diane Lane has refused to be a stereotype. She chose truth over glamour, silence over spectacle, depth over artifice. Even as Diane Lane reclaimed her place on screen, her private life remained turbulent. In the mid-1980s, she briefly stepped away from Hollywood, and during that time she crossed paths with rock stars and actors whose names alone could fill stadiums. There were whispers of late-night dinners with John Bon Jovi at the height of his fame, a pairing that tabloids called the Beauty and the Rocker. She was linked, however briefly, to actors like Timothy Hutton and Christopher Atkins. Each rumor splashed across glossy magazine covers. But behind the glamour was a woman quietly struggling to find lasting love. Her marriage to Christopher Lambert gave her a daughter, Eleanor, her greatest joy. Yet, Lambert's life in France and her career in America tore the family in two. Their divorce in 1994 was devastating, even though they parted as friends. Her second marriage, to Josh Brolin, promised stability but delivered more pain. After a very public arrest for domestic battery, Diane found herself in headlines for all the wrong reasons. Though she tried to forgive and rebuild, the wounds ran too deep. By 2013, she walked away for good. Through it all, Hollywood continued its cruelty, celebrating her beauty on red carpets but rarely acknowledging the strength it took to endure heartbreak after heartbreak, all while carrying a career that demanded constant reinvention. At 60 years old, Diane Lane is more than an actress. She is a survivor of Hollywood's cruelties. She never won the Oscar. She never played the game of scandal or self-promotion. Instead, she built a body of work that resonates quietly, profoundly, with anyone who has ever felt unseen. Her tragedy is not failure, but that Hollywood never fully recognized her greatness. But perhaps she never needed it, because in the end, Diane Lane belongs not to Hollywood, but to the audience, to those who, in a single glance, see themselves reflected in her eyes. Until next time, this is Vintage Spotlight, where the secrets of classic Hollywood come alive.